For more on the terror attacks in Paris, let's turn to Tara Miller, a former CIA analyst. Tara, thanks for joining us this afternoon to weigh in on what we could possibly expect as the investigation continues. And as you know, there are some reports that Hayat Boumediene could have left France by now and could be anywhere, including Syria or Yemen. We just had a report that she was in Turkey. She's like finding a needle in a haystack, it would seem. So how can French authorities best track her down?
Well, French authorities are going to be going through lots of different types of intelligence. They're going to be going through the 500 phone call records that we have heard about in the press. They're going to be going through records at airports. They're going to be going through intelligence assessments that have been written about various individuals and ties that she may have had both within France and potentially within Turkey, which reports are saying she was recently in. So they're going to be going through this data, trying to track her down and making sure that she's not in touch with anyone else posing an imminent threat, which is the key concern of French officials right now, especially with the large gatherings tomorrow. You
know, you're talking about people that she may have been in contact with. Police say hundreds of phone calls were actually made between Boumediene and the wives of the Kouachi brothers who attacked the Charlie Hebdo newspaper on Wednesday. Can police expect any cooperation from these women in helping them track her down?
Well, I believe all of these women are currently being questioned. They are in police custody, and I think that they will be probably very useful to the investigation, because it seems like they were in touch, both obviously with their husbands, but also with other individuals involved with the attack. So they might have knowledge, and I think that police will be using both the records and other individuals they may have been in touch with to assist with the investigation. But, intelligence is difficult. It's not a perfect science. We've seen this before. It's not something where the answer to all the questions are going to be neatly handed over. It requires collecting a lot of dots, and unfortunately, it seems like some things slipped through the cracks, and unfortunately, that led to the tragedy that we've seen unfold over the last couple of days.
Unfortunately, indeed, and beyond the search for her, there are heightened concerns about terrorists attacking yet other Western targets. Britain's MI5 chief saying that al-Qaeda wants to, or is planning more attacks aimed at inflicting mass casualties on transport systems or iconic targets. How do we in the West best prepare for these kinds of attacks to possibly thwart them? How do we become more proactive?
Yes, yesterday and today, the British have warned that there is a higher level of alert for targets in Great Britain. But transportation targets being a terrorist attack target is nothing new. Actually, in fact, transportation hubs are frequently targets of terrorist attacks. And this is something that U.S. law enforcement officials, the NYPD intelligence unit, and, British officials have been concerned about. This is not a new threat. Now, the mass casualty component of it, unfortunately, is something that they're going to be looking at more closely now, because these individuals were not lone wolf actors. These individuals were connected to known terrorist groups and known, previous terrorist actors, which means that there is the potential for something more serious, which is why I think we are seeing the heightened concern over the last few days because of the ties that these individuals had to other groups, not simply individuals randomly acting on their own or inspired by jihadist materials.
Tara Miller, and the sad reality is we have to be right 100% of the time. They can be right just one time.
It is true, and it reminds me of one of my favorite, pieces of writing on intelligence, which is the inevitability of intelligence failures, which is that even in the best case scenarios where you have so much information, it still takes time to go through it. It still needs a human component to it to put the pieces of the puzzle together, and they just need to be right once. And we've thwarted many plots, so we are right many times, or we'd see a lot more of this. And unfortunately, when something slips through the crack and this happens, it is a real tragedy.
Thank you, Tara. Tara Miller.